So recently I've been workshopping a series which is like what was it, 10,000 hours or something like that.
Hours.
30,000 hours.
The hours have expired.
The hours have expired. And 30,000 hours, I believe, is equivalent with like 20 times 4, with 5 years about or something. Which is how long I've been like a NEET or like NEET adjacent, because I'm very neat. I like to keep my affairs in order. NEAT, that's what I mean by NEET. Definitely. Sarcasm. No, it's NEET. You can look it up. I need some warmth in my video. Dylan, say something.
Warm.
That was a warm burp.
Some more.
So I was thinking
Whoa, I screwed up
of
the
a vlog format. Ignore Dylan because he doesn't actually exist in the context of this video universe. Of a sort of draw my life, but it's in vlog form, and that's a whole sort of concept of 30,000 hours, or whatever the fuck this series is called. So this day I was thinking of talking about the internet and my engagement with it. Which is, okay, so I get the internet, like in a sort of, unlimited LTE, as the kids would say today, form. I might be windy right now. I get it when, well, it was at the sort of ass end of 9th grade, I think it had to be. Because before that, I think I had an iPhone, iPod, it's hard to keep track of. But before that, I'd have to go to school and then I'd be separated from my precious technology. I actually forget a lot about my life. It's weird. I guess I just don't see the need to remember it. But so the first YouTuber I get really into is The Amazing Atheist. Some guy asked me, like, oh, are you a fan of The Amazing Atheist on the bus? And I was like, yeah. So I must have been a sort of infamous atheist at my school because I did some edgy things. I did some sort of prick shit. Like, I was like, Muhammad's a pedophile. Which, you know, whether or not that's true, I guess it's sort of a prick thing to say. It's like edgy and shit. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the idea of social capital on the internet. And so there's this idea that, we have these sort of grifters for positivity. That's been a very non-countervalent idea on the internet. Even people who are like, positivity, can be like, oh, we have this toxic positivity where you expect to always be positive. But in a certain way, people in like the skeptic community took this sort of opposite of it. You know, Marx, or really Hegel rather, if you want to learn anything about reality, you always got to remember stuff exists in a dialectic. So just because one side is wrong doesn't mean your side is going to be devoid of shitheads. That's a dialectic. It's the fact that the dialogue isn't something where some people are wrong and some people are right. The dialogue is something where a sort of ecosystem is filled up. And so, in this case, the ecosystem is across beliefs, but more importantly, across feelings. Because, you know, no matter how positive or negative people are, they tend to vent that feeling into a community. Unless you're like really off your rocker or just sort of like absorbed to a great extent. Like, I feel like H.P. Lovecraft might define both of these, but still, H.P. Lovecraft was massively influential and socially involved. So it's really hard to get a look at these real hermits. Even real hermits, like, I heard this story about this Quebecois man, this French man who, like, hitchhiked through the Northeast. I think this was in the 1800s. And he was very insular, but I could still tell that he had a certain social role. It was just very ephemeral. So, whether you're a serial killer or whether you're some like freer of men, you're some sort of freedom fighter, as U.S. Election Atlas would say, one website I've frequented, which I'll mention later in the video, you are socially woven into reality, and this is something that deserves a lot of attention, because you can't really create a sort of coherent theory without taking into account the fact that other people are involved. This is sort of where I disagree, or it's not even disagree, it's just I have a dispositional difference with the sort of evangelical bent, because I feel like a lot of evangelicals take this like above it all stance, like Nietzsche, like the character in Thus Spake Zarathustra, who's named Zarathustra, who he is the head prophet of Zoroastrianism, I believe. And him, before he goes down, he's on his mountain and he's like, you can fuck off, all of you. So I find it, I'm genuinely curious to find the sort of answer to life that doesn't really, the truly, I guess you would call it, not stoic, but solipsist, Good Cocky King song, approach to life. Because I don't think there is. I feel like solipsism is mostly a sort of maladjustment. I could be wrong. This is ironic because I sort of like think people probably see me as largely this because I don't really branch out that much. But I'd say that in large part, just because, you know, somebody doesn't interact doesn't mean they don't think about people a lot. You know, there's a classic example of like a writer who might be absorbed, but he like studies people a lot, and he's like, oh, so this is how that person interacts, and I saw this person interacting with his environment that way, and he acted like this in his relationship, so I could infer that somebody who I would write like this sort of character would have these sorts of mannerisms, right? Because whether or not that's like necessarily true, it helps the sort of character, whatever. But so anyway, my start on the internet, was The Amazing Atheist, because I was all like edgy and shit. I don't really even particularly know why it sort of like fascinated me that much. Maybe just like the metaphysics and the idea that, you know, there's this metaphysics that is still sort of dominant, even though in modernity we have all these sort of countervailing ideas and sort of this overarching knowledge about how things could be, about how things could be better, about how immortality or whatever, blah, 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 blah. So after The Amazing Atheist, what I got into was, well, The Drunken Peasants, and like the skeptic community gets to be garbage, and I'm like, the skeptic community sucks because they're all fascists or whatever. And then by 2015, same year I like drop out of high school, that's when I get really into formerly Digi, now Beatrice, Trial of the Golden Witch, B. And then this sort of informs me as to, hey, she was formerly a brony YouTuber, and it's this whole analysis sort of moniker for everything. This is also when I get into like Myers-Briggs and that stuff as like this horoscope or whatever, as this sort of way we can take philosophy and be like, fuck philosophers, fuck their ideas. I just want to talk about myself more, which, whatever you think of like MBTI, like it's pseudoscience or not, that's the point of it. It's talking about yourself, which is good. It's better at least in like MGTOW shit where it's like, I'm a man, so I'm statistically more likely to commit suicide or die in a workplace incident. It's like, shut the fuck up, bitch. God fucking damn it. Or like, listen up, you gotta hustle and grind. If you don't wanna get fucked up on the workplace grind, you gotta hustle and grind. That's what I'm saying to you. It's annoying. So, this sort of self-improvement shit, which I guess has existed since like the 80s, or probably the 60s, or probably forever, right? Or but this sort of vaguely liberal, I guess you would call, self-improvement, sort of create your own traditions. It's sort of associated with minimalism, I'd associate self-improvement with, and all these other hippy-dippy things that nowadays are really just for like yuppies, young urban professionals, to be sort of like, so this, I was just stressed out of my mind, but then I got this system, and this system provided me such great clarity, and to this day, I still follow it, because I just find it very inspiring. I found it very inspiring, and these people are funny as fuck, honestly. Fucking hilarious. Just gangbusters. People who read like, Richard Dawkins or Sam, whoever his last name is, and they're like, I find this guy fascinating. He said that. I don't know what Sam, whatever his last name, said, but that's the sort of tone of voice you'd expect from these guys. And honestly, they were born in the wrong generation. Ha! Get fucked! I'm too loud, maybe. Nah. Neckbeards. Haha. I used a derogatory term, which is dismissive towards your demographic, because I implied that you can't properly groom yourself. So you are like a child. You are like a child who can't deal with this post-pubescent phase. Yeah, I got into analysis of like media, and I also got into Myers-Briggs, which I think are things that are sort of interlinked, because it's this whole pop intellectualism, I'd say, because I mean, first of all, it's about people talking to each other about systems that they pedigreed or that they groomed and they sort of created and mined and sort of interconnected a sort of like system for. So I think Myers-Briggs YouTube, like personality YouTube and analysis YouTube are sort of connected in that way, where they're both just mountains and mountains of dumb bullshit, which is why I love them. And so Beatrice, the angle she came from was like so this angle of like media is sort of arranged to be pleasing, and media, in order to keep being pleasing, has to sort of arrive at some way it speaks to a certain demographic, right? Ooh, it's a car. And so that demographic is specifically selected, and that fan base then adopts its own sort of behavior. And that fan base then also loses self-awareness, and it becomes whatever fan base creates the next iteration of that media. So this is her idea of like the otaku hero, or I think that's basically just what it is. And who was the prime example of this? Well, there's Otaku no Video, where some like anime nerds are like, hey, let's make an anime company. So I guess that's an example. I forget the specific example. But so when going across this, the main thing I noticed is that political YouTube, which is in a way what The Amazing Atheist is, he is more so now, is this sort of negative, I don't think it would be wrong to call it a maelstrom of shit and garbage. And this sort of political YouTube attaches vaguely with like personality self-help YouTube when you want to go to the right wing of the racists and the sexists, but unironically. I don't know what that provides in terms of new information, but basically there's different bandwidths people can speak with. I think analysis YouTube and personality YouTube are just honestly more patient than politics YouTube. Politics YouTube has this sort of way of being a bit impatient because politics is fucking boring. Like, the issues are very sort of like, oh, I'm so angry. And so you can just sort of talk about how, in general, everything is shit for your group. But then you kind of either like have no knowledge of policy if you're on the right, or you have like kind of shoddy knowledge of policy if you're on the left. And so that brings me to forum users, which forums should be wiped off the internet because they've been mean to me, and I dislike that. And I think they're also mean themselves because I can't really tell their tone off of the internet, but they are bad people. Forums include U.S. Election Atlas. I've been on that one. And I've been on the Procrastinators Forum, I think. A good podcast. And I've also been on the Drunken Peasants IRC, which is shit. Whoever is Samuel L., I mildly dislike you. Kind of, I think. Maybe. I forget. So fucking die, bitch. Die rough. And so, what's the place of Forum YouTube? Forum YouTube is for people who write stuff down and it's like, what I wrote doesn't make any sense. And also, what I wrote, even if it does make sense, doesn't make any sense. Because, like, whoever I'm arguing with, I can't tell what I'm arguing. They can't tell what they're arguing. Oh, God. People are below literacy level, I fucking swear. Like, Twitter itself, I don't think the character limit has that much of an effect on how people type. I think people just type in a sort of toneless way, in a way lacking all stylization, and in a way where it's like, I said something someone else I agree with said, so therefore it's right. Like, okay, but that's not how you, like, think things through. I don't know. So, what was this video actually supposed to be about? Just my place on the internet? Yeah. In summary, The Amazing Atheist. It's sort of a boring community. It's sort of like just boilerplate edgy. Filthy Frank is better. Filthy Frank is edgier and funnier. The Amazing Atheist, you're fucking garbage. That's an inside joke. Ha 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 ha! Talking with famous people. My favorite personality YouTuber. You're fucking garbage. You're garbage. Fuck you. And, you're a libertarian dumbass who won't admit that he's libertarian because you're too insecure. And Trial of the Golden Witch, aka Beatrice. You shouldn't mine Bitcoin. I don't fucking know. Just my main problem with a lot of the internet is just like this hyper individualist, like, I'm on my own dick. Though that is fucking hilarious if I actually think of that. I don't need your pussy, bitch, I'm on my own dick. Yeah, that is funny, actually. I take it back. I don't care about that wigger from Arkansas disagreeing and saying that Snowpiercer is actually, the ending is bad. Which I would only disagree with because I would be like, oh, if you want context, it's episode 4 of the IG. Just type in like Digi into YouTube, and it's the YGG channel, and it's episode 4 of the podcast, which is in the most recent videos, which is I forget what it is, but shit. If someone watched this video like 80 billion years in the future, they wouldn't be able to tell what video I'm talking about. But it's episode 4 of one of the podcasts, and they talk about Shinji jacking off. So that further narrows it down. So yeah, what is the purpose of art in our modern society? Because it doesn't seem to be in order so that we can form more, like, cohesive groups, or in order so that we can, hello? I'm walking away. oh my God, I don't want to be too loud. My parents are sleeping, so I'm whispering like this. Oh my God, oh my God. Yeah.